Hey guys, this is Shail here and welcome to yet another video on the channel. Today we are doing one of the last, most probably the last, Iman Gadzhi thumbnail tutorial in the foreseeable future. I'm going to be going through this thumbnail right here that will be shown on the screen. We will be creating this from the scratch. I will be going over everything that I can share. And yeah, let's get right into it without wasting any time. So as usual, I have a new canvas created. The dimensions for this, for those of you that would not know, is 1280 pixels. That is the width. Then we have 720 pixels as the height. So 1280 into 720. And that's pretty much it. So first and foremost, if you guys have seen my previous Iman Gadzhi style thumbnail videos as well, the first thing to do, really is to get in the subject. And by the subject, I mean Iman himself. For you, it could be your client or it could be you yourself. It really depends on who you are really making the thumbnail for. But since this is a thumbnail that is based off of Iman Gadzhi's style, I will be picking Iman Gadzhi specifically. So I'm just going to bring in an Iman Gadzhi screenshot. All right, here I have Mr. Iman Gadzhi right in front of us. So now what I need to do is I need to mask him. To mask, any image, all you have to do is just go into the magic wand or any of the, given selection tools. It can be object selection tool, it can be quick selection tool, or it could be magic wand tool. But you're not going to be using any of these. You're just going to be simply going up to the toolbar right here, where my mouse cursor is currently. And you are going to be basically pressing on select subject. So it's automatically going to select the whole subject for you at most times, in most cases, but at times it may not be able to select it very, well. It may have some, sorts of background coming into the selection. So for that, I would recommend using the lasso tool, especially the magnetic lasso tool. A great tool. All you have to do is just drag it along the subject, and it's pretty simple to use, and it's more, you can say, detailed. There are, you will see that it's more clear, it's more clean, it's more defined as compared to the selection tool. But since it's a thumbnail and the minor details won't be really seen unless it's a artistic thumbnail, we can go with the select sub tool. So I've selected the subject. All I need to do now is create a mask. To create a mask, all you have to do is click on the layer mask right here. And voila, I have Mr. Iman all PNG'd up. If that makes any sense, it does not, but well. So as you can see, there are some fringes here that are not very well defined, and that is exactly what our next step is going to be. We are going to be clearing up, these fringes. So take a brush, choose the white color on the palette. You can either switch the colors from here, just go into the color picker and choose the white color. And what you are going to do is you're going to select the mask layer and start brushing it up on the edges so that the pieces that you want in the thumbnail, you can whiten them up. And if you want to remove certain things, like for instance, I want to remove this fringe of hair, I will just pick the black color and boom, I'm going to brush it out, and it will automatically remove all sorts of, the things that I don't want in the thumbnail. I will quickly refine Iman's picture and I'll be right back. All right, so I've done the quick refinements. Now all I have to do is right click, convert to smart object, so that if I really need to make any changes further on in the future, I can just double click it, and from there onwards I can bring back any part of Iman that I need to bring back eventually. So I'm just quickly gonna drag him in to our canvas right here. I'll close this, and voila, we have the subject right in front of us, and centered and a bit down, and there we go. That is pretty cool, I would say. Next thing is we are going to be bringing in a background. Now, Iman usually uses dark backgrounds. It's usually his room. But since, let's say, we don't have that fancy of a room in our, in our video or in our background, in our client's background, what are we going to do? Well, we can just bring in a nice little plain, elegant, minimal background. For that, I usually use FreePic. This is not a sponsored video, but I use FreePic. I have their, premium membership, so I can use the, assets for commercial use. All right, so I've got this black textured wall right here. I found it on FreePic. You guys can find it really easily as well, not that hard. And yeah, I will just quickly put it right here. So I'm basically gonna make Iman a little teeny bit more bigger. Or should I make him a bit smaller? I will actually make him a bit smaller so that, his hands are showing and it feels as if he's, in conversation with you. Now, as you can see, he has his hand on something, and we removed the table from the, previous picture that we took. And, not always your clients are going to be having tables. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go on to Google Images and find a nice little table. So Google Images, table, PNG. Um, let's have a look. There we go. We have the table into the thumbnail. Let's kind of slightly adjust it accordingly. Um, and voila, we have a table, we have a background. Now, what are we going to be doing? So, I have done those circle thumbnails in which there are, icons in the background. I have done the, graph thumbnails in which there are graphs in the background. What are we going to be doing today? So, you may have seen that lately there are these, rectangles behind Iman, and they are basically, they have this 3D aspect to them. Well, today we are basically going to be creating those. So for that, what we are going to be doing is we are basically going to have a new layer behind Iman. We're going to go into the shape tool and select the rectangle tool. We're going to have zero stroke, that means no stroke, and the fill is going to be white. And we shall create a nice little rectangle right behind Iman. Next thing, we are basically going to have some rounded edges. So for that, I'm going to go into properties and change the edges of the rectangle to, a curveness of, let's say, 45 pixels, just like that, right? We will slightly make it a bit more chunkier and a bit more taller, just like that. And we are going to have him right behind Iman. Duplicate. Right? I've just duplicated the rectangle by pressing Control J. Now, there are two rectangle layers here. Rectangle 1 copy, that's the one that we duplicated. We're going to be naming it main. And the one on the bottom, we're going to be naming it 3D effect. I accidentally wrote found 3D effect, right? Now we have the 3D effect with us. What we are going to do is once again go and press on the shape tool and change the color of the 3D effect to, let's say, black for now, right? So the one on the bottom under the main one is going to be black. The reason it's going to be black is that we need to make a 3D effect for the rectangle, and we need it to seem to be, popping out of the background. So I'll elaborate along the way. Hide the main one for a bit, or you can just keep it there. But what we are going to do is basically go into the move tool, select the 3D effect layer, and slightly move it to the left and to the bottom. Just by the slightest of margins, not that much. Just like that. Can I put it a bit in? Somewhat like that, right? And then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be basically going to the colors once again and slightly choosing a color of this shade. So it's basically white, but not completely white, right? And this is a very quick way of making these 3D rectangles. You don't have to put in a lot of effort. You don't really have to, research a lot. I know, there are certain things that may put them off, but on a thumbnail scale, it looks really good. You can either make it a bit more 3D or you can just keep it like that. So let's make it a bit more 3D, if that makes any sense. Or you could you could do it just like that, or maybe you can do it like that. It's completely up to you, how you really want to tackle with it, or how you want to portray it. But yeah, that is pretty much it. Next thing, you're going to be clicking on new layer above the main one, create clipping mask. You're going to select the brush tool, put the hardness to 0, select the black color, or if you want, you can select the same color of gray as the 3D effect background. Slightly put strokes of gray on the forefront, just like that. And it will add a nice little, subtle effect. Turn the opacity down to 75%, name it as shade, and that is pretty much it. You have these rectangles right on the back. Now group these layers. This is the one, duplicate it as 2, and just move it on the other side. Now right click, flip horizontal to make it seem like it's coming from this side, and you have a nice little rectangle on the back. All right, so to make it even furthermore a bit more interesting, what we are going to do is we are going to put in graphs, right? So for the first one, let's put in so under the shade, create a new layer as a clipping mask. This is going to be the graph texture. So I'll put this green lights layer graph texture here. The next thing I want to do is, so on here it's going to be going downhill. It's going to be a recession, and on the right side it's going to be an upwards trend. It's going to be the increase in all the financial world. So for the inflation, for the recession, we are going to have a downwards arrow. For that, you can basically use the same arrow as I provided in the previous videos, tutorial, or we can just bring in an arrow from Google. There we go. That we have as a downhill line. Create clipping mask. That is on the mask. We will quickly go from here. So, going downhill just like that. Right? So this is the graph that's going down. We will quickly name it as arrow. Blending options, put it as, put the color overlay red, so that, it amplifies that the negative is going on. We will quickly select this region, Control I, a new layer, red effect. We're going to choose the brush icon with 0 hardness and slightly, that multiply. There we go. We have a recession going on, so that's why we have it like that. We're going to put in a drop shadow as well. Not that harsh, just a slight bit of it. And then we will put in the text that says, let's say 2022. The font, we can use the Iman Gadzhi font, the Proxima Nova Black. Just increase the size of it like this, 2022. Add in a slight bit of drop shadow to it as well, just for the for the sake of adding a bit of depth to it. And we will basically replicate the same thing for the second part as well, but for the second part we are going to be having it completely upside down. So for instance, we had this arrow. I'll just duplicate it and bring it here. Right, this is the upwards arrow. So as you can see, it's downhill, right? So Control T, flip horizontal, flip vertical. It's going up now. So flip horizontal, and the trend is now going up. We are seeing an upward rise of the trend. And for this one, I'm even going to show half of the arrows that, whole message is conveyed properly. That, the trend is going up. It's coming back. Similarly, I'm going to bring in the graph texture as well. Right here, beneath the arrow. Just like that. And again, we will basically have the same thing done implemented here as well for the green color. Pardons me, I'm slightly colorblind, so this may not be exactly the green color, but I tried here. The upwards arrow, we are going to quickly change the color overlay to green. And we will bring in the text right here, please, and put it as 2023. Text color should be green. It's green, if I'm not wrong, yeah. Drop shadow could be improved because the legibility on it is a bit difficult. There we go. So that's pretty much it. You have these nice, rectangles made in the background. Yeah, seems pretty good. That's pretty much it. Now, all that is left is to, really go in and add in the color corrections to Iman firstly. So as always, filter, camera raw filter. We go into basic, add some contrast, increase some exposure, decrease the highlights, increase the shadows by a bit, increase the whites by a slight bit, and increase the blacks a bit as well in this case. Have some texture going on, some clarity, and some good vibrance. With that done, we can basically add in some more color corrections to the table as well. The table we have right here. With that, then we can have some color corrections done to the table as well. Camera filter, add some, texture, contrast, increase the things that you need to have increased, decrease the things that you don't need, add some sharpening and color reduction to, add an overall nice little vibe to it. Then similarly for the background as well, have a bit of color correction going on to make things seem a bit more color corrected. um, just like that. And then we can actually have an overall vignette effect by just going into brush black. We can add a bit of a black like this. So, it adds more focus to Iman and the background. We can go on and add some glows to the graphs. So for instance, for the red one, let's add a bit of a red glow to it. Just a brush stroke over it and put at linear dodge. Just like that. So that has a nice little subtle red effect to it. 55. Similarly for the green one as well. Have a nice little subtle glow effect going on. At around 28%. Maybe tone down the blacks that we put by a slight bit. Have a nice little drop shadow on the back of the small cubes that we made, the rectangles that we made. Apart from that, it's pretty much you can obviously have your changes made, your, little implications or, variations done, really up to you, really up to you. But that's pretty much the overall of how you can, really make a nice little looking thumbnail. To top it all, you can just go Control G, Control J, Control E, to basically just put in the final color corrections to the overall thumbnail by adding contrast, exposure, reducing the highlights, but increasing the shadows, then increasing the whites and increasing the blacks. Just the normal color corrections that you do in thumbnails to make things pop out a bit more, and just to make things look more, you can say, uh, appealing to the eye. So yeah, that's how you can make these type of Iman Gadzhi style thumbnails. Hopefully this tutorial was helpful to you. I will also release the PSD file for this one on Twitter. So whoever likes and retweets a tweet on Twitter, I will share the PSD file with them so that they can use the assets or basically use the thumbnails overall. You know, how do you say, the overall thumbnail template, you can say, in their own way. But yeah, that's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a good day, good night, whatever you're having, according to the times that you're living in. I'll see you all next time in the next tutorial. Till then, it's a wrap.